Hello everyone, welcome back to Airlines Quest. Today we're going to dive into the latest developments, where the U.S. airline industry is calling on the federal government to pause the expansion of passenger flights to China. This comes amidst concerns over the anti-competitive policies of the Chinese government and the uneven playing field that U.S. carriers are facing. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, the U.S. and China enjoyed a relatively robust air travel market, with airlines on both sides operating around 150 weekly flights between the two countries. However, as geopolitical tensions escalated and both nations imposed travel restrictions at the start of the pandemic, this thriving air corridor was severely disrupted. While China has since resumed pre-pandemic levels of flying to certain destinations like Egypt and Saudi Arabia, the recovery in U.S. China air travel has been much slower. Until August 2023, U.S. and Chinese carriers were only allowed to operate 12 flights per week between the two countries. It wasn't until this past March that the U.S. Department of Transportation announced an increase to 50 weekly flights, starting on March 31st. Now, in a significant development, the U.S. airline industry is pushing back. On Thursday, a coalition of major industry groups, including Airlines for America, the Airline Pilots Association, the Allied Pilots Association, and the Association of Flight Attendants, sent a letter to Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg and Secretary of State Antony Blinken. In this letter, the industry is collectively urging the federal government to pause additional passenger flights between the United States and the People's Republic of China until U.S. workers and businesses are guaranteed equality of access in the marketplace, free from the existing harmful anti-competitive policies of the Chinese government. The crux of the argument is that the Chinese government has implemented strict limits on access to its market since the pandemic, creating an uneven playing field for U.S. carriers. The letter states, if the growth of the Chinese aviation market is allowed to continue unchecked and without concern for equality of access in the market, flights will continue to be relinquished to Chinese carriers at the expense of U.S. workers and businesses. Another major issue highlighted in the letter is the lack of access to Russian airspace for U.S. airlines, while their Chinese competitors can freely utilize these routes. This enables Chinese carriers to charge less for certain flights, as they don't have to incur the added costs and operational challenges of avoiding Russian airspace. Shortly after Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, the U.S., UK, Canada, and Europe all banned their airlines from flying over Russian territory. Previously, U.S. carriers had been able to access Russian airspace by paying the necessary fees to the Russian government for air traffic control support. The inability to use Russian airspace has cost the U.S. airline industry an estimated $2 billion in annual market share, according to Airlines for America, A4A. Not only have U.S. airlines had to charge more for flights that would have gone through Russian airspace, but they've also had to change course, leading to more layovers and delays in launching new routes in the Asia-Pacific region. At the heart of the industry's concerns is the belief that U.S. airlines are at a significant competitive disadvantage in the Chinese market due to the close relationships between Chinese airlines and the Chinese government. The letter states, "We ask the government to take the time to address these significant competitive issues and protect U.S. aviation workers, travelers, and airlines." It's clear that the U.S. industry feels it is facing an uphill battle against the Chinese government's influence over its domestic carriers. In response to the industry's letter, the DOT declined to comment on the matter, while the State Department did not immediately respond to a request for comment. This suggests that the federal government is likely taking the concerns seriously and is considering its next steps carefully. It's worth noting that the DOT's recent decision to increase the weekly flight cap between the U.S. and China to 50 was seen as a positive step by the industry. However, the concerns raised in the letter indicate that this is not enough to address the underlying competitive issues. The tensions between the U.S. and Chinese aviation industries are not taking place in a vacuum. They are part of the broader geopolitical and economic rivalry between the two superpowers, which has intensified in recent years. The airline industry's call for a pause in the expansion of U.S.-China flights reflects the larger struggle for influence and market share in a strategically important sector. It's a dynamic that could have far-reaching consequences, not just for the industry itself, but also for the wider U.S.-China relationship. In conclusion, the U.S. airline industry's request for the federal government to pause the expansion of passenger flights to China is a significant development that underscores the ongoing challenges and tensions in the bilateral aviation relationship. The industry's concerns over anti-competitive policies and the lack of a level playing field in the Chinese market are valid and deserve careful consideration by policymakers. Like and subscribe for more. Thank you.